evening and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Enduro for their ongoing support in bringing you our fortnightly Q&A. Tonight we're fortunate enough to be speaking with Richard and Ali Davies from Celtic Livestock Services.
Rich and Ali will be picking who they think have asked the best question of the night, and I'll win a bag of Enduro high-energy food for working dogs with real kangaroo, mate.
Hey guys, how you going?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
That's good.
Now, having met your lovely family before, it's very quiet there at the moment.
Yeah, we've got the kids shut up in the other half of the house, so all hell will be breaking loose there, but that'll be fine.
Thank you very much for giving us some time tonight, guys.
No, that's all
No
good.
worries.
Speaking of what did today see for you guys?
Well, we actually had a day at home today, which was good. So we've got a few dogs in for training and things like that. So we've put a fair bit of time into those today and played around with our own dogs. And kids have rode horses once they come home from school. So it's been a pretty good day, really.
Beautiful. And Ernie amongst his chooks.
Oh, yeah, he loves his chooks. Yeah, he's getting the show chooks all ready and stroking them and washing them and patting them. And yeah, he just loves them.
Does he have a good eye for it?
Yeah, he does, actually. He's got a good eye for stock all round, really, young Ern. So he sort of doesn't know it at the minute, but he has got a good eye for stock.
Challenging you guys picking pups already?
Yeah, no, I let the kids pick our pups, so it works quite well. Yeah.
Beautiful, mate. We might jump into it there. Obviously, we've introduced you guys. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Yep. You can go first, Al.
Well, we live down south of Hamilton in southwest Victoria. That's where we are at the minute. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm originally from the UK. Was born and raised in the UK, and actually grew up in a city called Hereford till I was 10-year-old. Probably on a rough council estate there, which people probably didn't realise. So yeah, grew up there till I was 10 years old, and then moved out to the country, and that's where the love of farming sort of came from, really. So that's where I grew up, and yeah, come over here when I was about 29, I think it was, and yeah, the rest is history, as they say.
What brought you over here?
Shearing. I shore for probably 10 years of my life all over the world. I was lucky enough to go to places like Norway and Germany and New Zealand, and Australia was the only place I hadn't shorn, so decided to come here and tackle the merinos, and met Al when I was shearing up round Ivanhoe. You were wool classing up there, weren't you? So yeah.
Yep.
Men in the sheds.
Yep.
Beautiful. And did you have a preference? Like, obviously, you said you travelled along like many countries there shearing. Did you have a preference in the different sheep you were shearing? Yeah,
so New Zealand was good. Everything's the same over there. You know, they're all Romney ewes. They're all peas in a pod, basically. So, you just get your pattern and you shear sheep every day, and they're all the same. So you can build up your tallies that way. But I did enjoy shearing in Norway. We shore in the works there, so they'd shear all the lambs before they were killed.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that. We'd go there about August, and it would be beautiful weather, and then by Christmas time when we left, it would be minus 32 and 10 foot of snow, so it was really quite different.
And how about you, Ali? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up at a little place in southwest Vic, little place called Bessybell, sort of in between. It's down near Port Fairy on the coast. So I grew up in a family of drovers. My mum and dad were drovers, and my dad's side of the family were very well-known drovers, the Tawneys, and my mum's side of the family were shearing contractors. So, yeah, just grew up on a little place down there.
Did you spend much time on the road?
Yeah, I did. And just then my dad went and mum and dad managed a sheep and cattle place when I was till I was probably about 10, I suppose, and then dad went shearing. my dad passed away when I was about 13. So I went on the road droving with one of his best friends. He's still a drover now. He did a lot of droving in Victoria, and he's in New South Wales at the minute. So I spent a lot of time on the road droving through my teenage years. Didn't really like school much. So yeah, that's yeah.
That's one way to get away from it.
Yeah. Yep.
So, sorry.
I was going to say, and then you got into wool classing straight after that, like after school?
I did a lot of sort of different jobs when I left school. I left school, like I did a lot of droving in the school holidays and that sort of thing. And then I left school to work on a place called the Union. It's a big sort of bull fattening operation down in Southwest Vic. So I did that for a little while. I went and worked on a station in the Territory, cattle station in the Northern Territory. I worked on a feedlot and a few other little bits and pieces like that. And then, I thought, for the money side of things, I thought I'm going to go rousing. So I did that. And then I thought I'll get me stencil. So, went wool classing and it's
Never any inkling of an office job or doing something different? Like,
Nah, definitely not. Never, nah. Always just loved being on the land and working with stock. So yeah.
Your kids never stood a chance of not loving stock between.
I know.
They've got sheep shout on the brain like us, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So when you come over here, Rich, you're shearing. Where did the dogs come into it, mate?
So I did a lot of shepherding and contract stock work when I was younger, through my teens and late teens. So had border collies back in the UK. That's all I ever had was border collies. So I just used them to do the gathering of the hills and all the stock work with those. And that's where my love of dogs sort of come along.
Yeah, beautiful. That other question before, does that? I'm gonna move there.
A bit later.
Yeah, cool. That's all right. I just had a couple of questions. We're just looking and go, where can we fit these in?
Yeah.
That's cool. So, been over here for since you're 29. You guys met in the sheds. Obviously we know how that progressed, but how where have you travelled, or was there anything that you guys like when you met? Did you go, okay, we want to accomplish this, or you just kind of went with the flow?
Yeah, so we sort of stuck at the shearing. We had Miley, and then stuck at the shearing for a bit, and then Indy came along, and it sort of got a little bit hard to travel with two kids because we're still going back to the UK to do the lambing on my family farm, and I had a little shearing run of our own over there, so it's sort of got a little bit hard by the time I was sort of 31, 32. So we sort of decided to give it away and start managing farms. Sort of people said you shouldn't give the shearing away because you're too young and that, but sort of got in my head that no one would want a broken down 40-year-old shearer as a manager. Yeah. So took the gamble and went managing farms.
And how long have you been doing that for now?
Probably eight years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you miss the clippers, mate?
I do. Yeah, I gave it away before I hate it. Like you see a lot of old shearers, they really start to hate it in the end, don't they? But I do miss it. I think I just miss the atmosphere and the sheds, that side of it more so.
Do you still get on a hand piece when you're managing one and it's shearing time?
Yeah. Definitely go and jump up and do a few. That's for sure. Yeah.
Can't help yourself.
No. Sure.
He loves it.
Yeah.
So, Ali, you mentioned. Sorry, what was that?
I said he loves giving the young fellas a run for their money.
You mentioned earlier, unfortunately, your father passed away so early, and you were working with his dad. Was anyone else that inspired you?
Yeah, well, so my family were, Dad was a sort of old style, I don't know, real old sort of cowboy, I suppose. People would think of him now, and I remember as a kid, he was have the foot in the collar sort of thing with his dogs, and I remember, I did a thing at school, and it was, if you could be anyone, who would you be? And I remember Mum still got it, this little painting of, I painted a man on a horse with his dog following him. And I said, if I could be anyone, I'd be like my dad. He was, I thought he was pretty cool old fella. But anyone else to inspire me? Rich has really inspired me. When we first met, it was on a station in between Balranald and Ivanhoe. And I always, from a little girl, I always had healer dogs. My family did more cattle work and a lot of sheep, but I always had a healer dog from a little age. And I had this stumpy-tailed dog with me, and it used to come everywhere with me when I was, in the shearing industry. And Rich never said anything. I'd be like, "Don't touch me, dog," in case he bites you. When we met, and he never mentioned anything to me when we first met about dogs, like nothing. Never mentioned anything about dogs or farming or anything. And I just thought he was a shearer from Wales. It was pretty funny. And he had quite a strong accent then compared to now. And so when we met, we got together obviously, and he said, "Come to the UK with me." And I was like, "Oh, righto." I'd never even thought of going to the UK ever. And I went over there, and then he was like, "Oh, we're going to work the next day." So I was like, "Oh, righto, what are we up to?" And he decked me out, and it was quite dark, like grey, the weather, and decked me out in all these warm clothes. Got up to go lambing, and it was snowing. There was 1.5 foot of snow. Anyway, then we started sort of the day. The sheep had just come in to the shed. They lamb indoors, all the twins and triplets indoors, and the singles were still up on I call them mountains. They're pretty big hills. Rich was like, "I'm going up in the hills to get down all the hill sheep, Welsh ewes." He sort of dropped me at this gate, and because it was too steep, he said, "You just wait here." And off he went, and he still had never really mentioned dogs, and he took couple of his dogs he had over there, collies, and off he went. And I seen him coming down this hill, and it was really steep, and you have to sort of be able to drive the dog, bring the sheep down all these little tracks. And I was just stood at this gate freezing my ass off. And I thought, bloody hell. I was like, look at that dog. And I was so amazed I was just gobsmacked. I was absolutely gobsmacked. And then the next day, a few of them had lambed, so they sort of parted them out in one of the lower fields. They sort of brought them down closer to the sheds, and he'd part any out that hadn't had lambs already, he'd bring them in. And I was really blown away. So in the way of someone inspiring me, Rich really, I was really inspired by him, and I still am now. Like the things that he does, just bloody, yeah, it's unreal.
Does she let you know that, Rich?
No, she doesn't, to be honest. No.
I'm pretty happy with it.
Did you know that moment was so big for her? Like quiet.
I knew it was the only time I've actually been able to make her quiet, but I didn't realise it took a hold that much. Yeah.
I don't say much to him, but anyway.
Love it. How about yourself, mate?
There's an old fella back home called David Rees. He'd be in his 80s now, but
Can we just hold it for 1 sec?
Yep.
Before you steal some thunder. Sorry, 1 sec.
Yep.
Daniel Lenzo's asked, how much influence did David Rees have on your understanding and training methods for working dogs?
Oh, huge, massive. Yep. He pretty much taught me everything I know about dogs, to be honest. I've sort of growing up in the sort of 14, 15, 16-year-old, I just bought dog books, like Derek Scrimmager and Glyn Jones had books out at the time, and VHS videos, and I bought those, and I sort of self-taught myself for a little bit with dogs. I'd sort of read a chapter in the book and then I'd go out and practice it and then come back in and read another chapter and then go out and practice it. And I sort of got a bit sick of that in the end. So I was reading through the ISDS magazine one day, and David Rees, he was only 2 hours away. So I plucked up the courage to give him a ring, and he said, come down and I'll help you train dogs. And yeah, sort of a friendship that's bloomed from there, really. We still talk now about dogs, and if I've got any questions, I still ring him. But yeah, he's the best dog man I've ever met. And yeah, he taught me absolutely everything, not just about dogs, but how to handle stock and things like that. Yeah, he's a great bloke when it comes to a dog.
That's cool. What about when you come over here? Did you have to change anything that you'd learnt from what he'd shown you?
I still train the same way now, really. Yeah, well, I got my first Kelpie over here and just went about how I knew how to train a dog and trained him the same and trained him how to drive and shed and single. I just thought that was normal to training a dog. So I just taught him how to do that, and you haven't really changed my training method too much since, really. Yeah.
Why did you go to the Kelpies when you were so used to the Collies?
Just when I was younger, I suppose Kelpies were probably thought of in the UK a bit like a Hunterway, just yardy, back and bark sort of dogs. So we never sort of went near them. And then the first time I come over here shearing, I shore for a contractor out of Port Augusta called Pete and Sandra Smith, and went out to shed up with him one day, and he had to get them in out the paddock to start with. And he just sent these 2 Kelpies, and they cast like collies, and then they come into the yards and they backed and they filled the shed, and they were like border collies, but just with that a little bit extra. And I sort of went home after that season thinking, well, that was pretty impressive. Like, I could never get my collie dogs to do that. Like, that's pretty unreal. So, yeah, come back and then met Al, obviously, and then went home. And then we came back and I thought, I'm going to have to... We went to sheep benching, actually, and saw the yard trial there. And I was like, I wouldn't mind giving that sort of a go. So we bought a dog off Peter Mead that Ali was friends with, and he was my first Kelpie, a dog called Idaho, Texas. So he sort of taught me what a Kelpie could do. He's basically a collie in a Kelpie skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to we'll get into dogs a little bit later, or do you want to go on with that now?
Up to you.
Oh, I was just going to ask you before I suppose, jump into dogs full time. Like, you've covered a whole heap of territory, different countries. Like, what have you noticed in the change in stockmanship, not just between countries, but over time?
Over time, yeah, the sort of when I was younger, and we'd go gather in the hills back home. Dogs were bred to travel. They were longer-legged dogs. To run through all the fern and the gorse on the hills, and they were bred with big engines and all that sort of stuff to do that. They'd run 10 or 20 Ks one way and then they'd muster all day home, But I think the trial scene's probably changed that a little bit. There's a lot less stamina in dogs now because they can jump on the back of a motorbike now and they can be sort of carried and dropped anywhere, can't they? So, yeah, that's sort of changed in dogs that I feel, especially back home in the UK. Those true work dogs aren't that easy to find anymore.
Yeah, right. And what about yourself, Ali?
Sorry.
What about yourself? Like, you've seen a change in, like you mentioned about before, like your dad, like, the old foot in the collar kind of mentality. And how have you seen not just like dogs, but obviously that would have had an effect on stock as well, the way stock are treated or moved around?
Yeah, definitely. I think, these days with people having the option of going to so many different dog trainers and there's dog schools and things like that these days, I think it's made people realise that you can get such a good handle on your dog. And when you go to work, people can place their dogs where they want to, and that sort of stuff. Compared to, I think, back like from when I was a kid, what I seen, yeah.
I suppose back in the day they just took dogs and they took pups
Yeah,
to work,
and
and that's how they did it.
they
They just learned on the job, and
yeah, dropped them out. And,
if they were out of control, they were out of control, weren't they?
yeah,
So
when I worked on the road for a fella called old Kevin Byron. He's passed away now, but he was a bloody good old fella. And I remember when my first day I got there, there was this Smithfield cross pup thing under the caravan, and I couldn't get it out from under the caravan. He said, "Oh, I only had an old Kelpie with me that I was very fortunate to have." And he said, "Oh, you can have that pup if you can catch it, Ali." And I was like, "Oh, righto." Anyway, I just took that pup everywhere with me, and it turned out a beauty. But I only ever would just put it on the back of the two-wheeler and chuck it off, at the when I'd go to lock the cattle up at night or something. And I think now, geez, if I had that dog and I actually trained it and put sides on it, and it'd be a hell of a dog. But yeah, I think that was what I seen when I was young, was people would just chuck them out and they'd go for it. But yeah, it's good now. People have got, like myself, I come from that sort of thing, and there's so many opportunities now to learn how to get a good handle on your dog, and it makes it so much easier when you're at work.
Yeah.
I was going to say, has there been sort of anyone here other than the ones you've already mentioned that have helped you sort of get going in Australia with it all?
Yeah. Well, when Rich brought Tex off Peter Mead, his sky blue Kelpies, he was a good friend of my family's. He sort of really encouraged us in the dog trialing,
in the yard trialing sort of stuff.
Yeah,
he really pushed us to have a crack at that.
Yeah.
And then I've talked to a lot of old fellas, in my time here, and talked to them about breeding and trialing, and they've helped out an awful lot. Les Everly's been a pretty big help to us. We were lucky enough to buy stud dogs off him just to kick our breeding down the track a little bit further. The likes of Jimmy Marshall, and I've talked to him a fair bit and picked his brains about a lot of things. So there's been a lot of people really that have given us little bits and pieces along the way.
Mm-hmm. Question here from Chris Egan. He's asked, when looking for the line of dog you wanted and needed, what were you looking for? And then where did you find what you were looking for? And then I'll let you answer those two first.
I think I was lucky enough when we bought Tex. He sort of fitted what I was looking for. I was sort of crossing over from that border collie phase, and he was sort of like a collie, like I said, but in a Kelpie skin. And I started his breeding a fair bit and found out his mother was a bitch called Coogee Lil, who was a sister to Coogee Wonder and Coogee Banger and all that, those successful Coogee dogs. And then his father was a dog called Karana Patch, who happened to be a Bowenong Buster Karana Jetta joining. So we chased those lines pretty hard for a while, and crossed them a lot, and got a fair bit of that Coogee stuff through our lines, and then had to find something that sort of would complement that line, but was sort of an outcross. So did our homework and dropped on the Gunner stuff, Jim Marshall's stuff, which was pretty similar bred way back, but it was a very similar type of dog, leggy, good stamina to what we were breeding, and we sort of crossed the two lines from there on.
Yeah,
but it took a lot of finding and a lot of research. I'm sort of quite sad, like that, a bit of a genetic nerd when it comes to breeding dogs and sheep and cattle and that, and tracked it down, did a lot of homework on them, and had a crack.
It was you guys I was talking to at Ningen, where you're looking for a particular dog bred a different way, and you're looking everywhere for it, and then you found one locally, like not far from home.
Yeah, so I was looking for a Gunner mix son to use over some bitches, and travelled all over New South Wales trying to find them and find out these dogs were dead and they weren't around anymore, and found out there was one at Casterton, which is only half an hour from home. So we've used him actually. So we saved ourselves a lot of travelling, that's for sure.
I was sure, like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. 100%.
So on from that, Chris has asked, how have you altered or maintained that line?
Yeah, so we've sort of line bred a fair bit. So we've done a half brother, half sister joining of gunner Mick son over gunner Mick daughter to sort of secure that stuff. And then I was lucky enough to have a bitch called Wonderbar Bonnie who was by Bocco Wonder and out of Coopendale Lucy. So Wonder's by Coogee Wonder and Lucy's by Coogee Banger, and they're brother and sister. And we put Coogee Ace over that, who was another brother. So we had 3 crosses of that line in that joining. And we secured that line. And then, we've just sort of crossed the 2 from there on, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we got a little puppy, and now he's 6 months old, which is sort of where we wanted to be with him. Little pup, I called him Jim because he's all Jim Marshall's stuff on the sire side and all Jim Luce's stuff on the mother's side. He's like our Ernie, really. He's like an old soul in a pup's body. I haven't actually had to teach him too much. He sort of backs already and kicks around a paddock quite nicely, and he's only a pup, so that's sort of where we want to be. But it's quite nice to see all that breeding coming out, sort of in that line.
Yeah, that was going to be my question: is what is it that you're actually looking for? Because we sort of skipped over that.
Yeah, just want that all-round dog. Like we want to be able to get up on a weekend, and if there's a 3 sheep trial on, go to a 3 sheep trial, or if there's a yard trial on, go to a yard trial. And if we're out on the farm day in, day out, we want to go mustering with the same dogs that we can do our yard work with. And that's sort of what we want to do, really. It's just have that all-round dog. They don't have to be an expert at anything, but they just got to be able to do everything, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a key attribute?
I do like a good outside dog. That's just coming from my background as a collie man originally. I do like that nice distance outside, that nice cast. That they've got to be kind to stock. They've got to look after their stock. I like a dog that's got a bit of patience, and I find that is bred into this line a little bit. They do have a lot of patience. They will naturally sit off a mob at a gateway and give them time and space to see the gate and move through the gate instead of being up them. So that's sort of what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And what about yourself, Ali?
Yeah, I'm very similar, I suppose, to Rick. Yeah, I don't like a dog causing me too much grief. I'm probably a little bit more forceful than Rich. I'm an I suppose you could say. I'm got a bit more. I probably want a dog with a little bit more go in it than Rich, but yeah, I don't like to be shouting and bellowing, that's for sure. Yeah.
And we're finding people are coming to us now, get pups and that, because they're sick of shouting and bellowing at a dog all day in the paddock. Like, they're going home tired and they've got a sore throat and they go home grumpy because they've just fallen out with their dog all day. And they're coming to us because they can still get a job done, but it's quite enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you guys have a his and hers team, or it's just a walk the kennel and grab a dog?
Yeah, no, we've both got our own teams. I find my dogs are pretty loyal. They don't even look at Ali.
Yeah.
So so my dogs are my dogs and Al's dogs are hers. And
yeah, I've been lucky enough to inherit a couple of Rich's old timers, but it took a long time for them to come over to my way of thinking. That's for sure. They but no, we've definitely got our own teams. So yeah.
Has it always been like that, or is it just something that sort of evolved?
No, always been like that.
Yeah, so it's always been like that. I suppose loyalty is a pretty big thing I like in a dog. I do like those one-man dogs. I just find you can get a lot out of them when they're solely on you, set on you. So yeah, I've always liked those loyal types.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give any of those dogs a plug, mate?
Well, they're just there's Roxy and Roy, and there's a few of them out there that'll come through in the next couple of years anyway. Yeah.
What about yourself, Ali? You want to tell us a little bit about your team?
Yeah, I obviously I've got 4 kids, so I have never really had much time to train my own dogs, and Rich is sort of, like I said, the dogs he trains. It's really hard for me to take them over. So obviously I work full time, and I've worked full time for the last 7 years. And like when I had Polly, she's 3. I was straight back at work when she was 6 weeks old. So I've sort of, always needed a dog to just go straight out there and do it. So I've been really fortunate enough to have purchased a couple of dogs, and Rich did it as well for the breeding off Les and Jane Everly. I've got a really nice dog that I love dearly. Hilton's Frank is his name. And he is just such a good dog, all-round dog. He's such a good dog. And my best work dog would be a bitch called Caviar Hazel. And she's just like, we were talking about this the other day about, the ultimate all-round farm dog. And I reckon Hazel's probably that dog here out of all the dogs we have. And we've got quite a few that is that ultimate all-round dog. She can do paddock and yard, and just she's a dream, isn't she? Yeah, I've got a few kicking about, but they would definitely be my 2 favourites that I've got. I
was lucky enough to get a bitch called Abra's Jetta a while back, probably 7 or 8 years ago. She was 4 when I managed to buy her. She was a Gunner Mick bitch, and she's bred most of my team actually. She's bred. I've probably got 7 or 8 sons and daughters of hers out there now from 4 different sizes, and they're all pretty much the same, same print. And then probably another 4 or 5 granddaughters and sons of hers out there too. And she was a pretty amazing bitch for me. She's bred all my top team. So pretty thankful for her too.
Is there anything you'd like? Sorry, Ali, you're right.
Another old dog that was such a good old dog, wasn't there? And old Bess.
Oh, Waibimbi Bess.
Waibimbi Bess. She was my first ever yard trial dog, I suppose, and work dog. I was lucky enough to buy her off a guy called Tom McMahon, and Tom trained her. I think Tom got her for his 21st, actually, off his mum. Anyway, Tom sold her on to me, and she was a great old dog, old Waibimbi Bess. She was a beauty. I loved her. She taught me a lot about having a good dog with a good hand, a good handle on it. She was a beauty, wasn't she? Yeah,
another Yalleroy toss bitch. There's a good line of dogs.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd love to put in or like to put into your own line? If you could tweak it a bit.
Yeah, to think about that one. I would like. I've never had a crack at cattle trials and that, but they do work cattle. But it would be nice to maybe add some of that Glen Faber stuff or a bit of Capri stuff in there at some point. We are going to have to go out for an outside sire at some point soon. So I have been looking at those sort of more cattle lines just to see what they do for us really. I think we've got a strong enough bitch line now that it probably wouldn't alter our type of dog too much. But it might just add a little bit more grunt, I suppose.
Yeah. Is there a dog that somebody else has owned that you'd go, I wish that was in back in my year?
Yeah, Cooperdale Lucy is pretty special sort of bitch. I reckon that Benny Costa's got. I'd love her in our camp, to be honest.
It's like me talking. I have a soft spot for Lucy.
Yeah, the daughter I got of Lucy Wonderbar Bonnie, she went straight to work at 6 months old, and I didn't really have to train her. Like, she was never any issue. You just take her along, and she'd just go and do her thing. And I think the first yard trial I took her to, she won the maiden, novice, improver, and got 4th in the open, and she was only 1.5 year old. But I wouldn't mind Lucy in the camp, that's for sure.
What about you, Ali?
A dog now that's around. I'd have Hilton's Major. Yeah, yep. You would have seen him. You've seen him at Ningen, didn't you?
Yeah. What do you like about Major?
Well, I love his breeding, and I suppose I've only ever seen him on the trial field, but I love the way he works and just the way he reads his stock. And yeah, I think he's a really cool dog. I like him a lot. And there was another, a dog that we don't see anymore that I saw. We used to run a utility trial at Camperdown. Oh, geez, bloody years ago now. How long ago was that? 8 years ago?
7 or 8 years ago, yeah.
A dog of Joe Spicer's. What was her name?
Token.
Go get a token.
Yeah.
I always think about that. Dog, and there was just something about her. I've only ever seen her at a few utility trials, and yeah, she was a really nice dog. I just loved the way that she worked. She always just stood out to me out of all the dogs I've ever seen. Yeah.
That's cool. And Rich, having coming from the collies and liking these kelpies that are nice paddock and outside dogs, what's feel to yourself? How do you rate feel?
Yeah, it's pretty high. They've got to rate their stock pretty well. If you've got 4 or 5 lambs that have broke back on you and all that, you don't really want to dog up them, do you? You've got to have a dog that will rate them and feel them and find that sweet spot to bring them back to you. It's pretty high on my list of things. A dog has to have feel, to be honest.
And that with those lines you mentioned, that their dogs that obviously carry that. So is that something you want to see just come through in your lines, or are you prepared to put a bit of extra time aside to train to try
if I like the dog, if I like the dog, I'll put time into it. But it is coming through in our line. We were actually playing around with a few more wild sheep yesterday, weren't we? Training sheep and breaking them in, and we put some young ones on there, and they sort of had them as quiet as mice, but you get a dog with a bit of presence there, and they were just blowing them apart, sort of thing. So, yeah, I do like to see it coming through in the lines. But yeah, like I said, if I do like the dog and there's something about him, I'm willing to put the time into it to get it there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what about strength then? What's strength to you guys?
Yeah, so I like strength. So yeah, if a dog's got to be able to draw that line. Like we work a lot of big, heavy composite type ewes down here, and they do smell weak dogs. You know that you kick your dog around a mob, and they'll suss that dog out before it gets to 12 o'clock. You want a dog to get to 12 o'clock and actually draw that line and say, righto, we're going that way, sort of thing. To me, that is strength. Yeah, they really do have to sort of boss and bully these sheep a little bit at times. Down here, probably a bit different up New South where the sheep are a bit lighter, but down here, yeah, they really do have to draw that line in the sand and say, righto, we're not moving back from here.
And do you think strength and feel almost contradict each other at times?
They do. Yeah, I think they do. Yeah. You get those stronger dogs and they probably do lack a little bit of feel. And then you get those dogs that are really feely and they do probably lack that little bit of strength, don't they? So, yeah, it's hard to get that all-round type, isn't it? But if you can get that happy medium, I think you're winning.
Which one outweighs the other for you?
I like feel, to be honest. I do like a dog that feels its stock and will bring them back on its own without you having to yell sit all the time. So, yeah.
I mean, we already know Ali. She wants to grunt.
Yeah.
She likes the V8. So, yeah. But no, you find these ewes down here, like landmarking time's a pretty tough time on dogs because they're such good mothers, the ewes down here. And you get 200 ewes with twins at foot to a gateway and then they just stop because they can count. They go, oh, well, we've got one lamb here. Where's the other? And they'll just spend 10 or 15 minutes in that gateway trying to sort themselves out. But then you've also got the lambs trying to run back to where they last saw mum. So you've got to have those feely dogs covering those lambs. But then you've also got to have that little bit of that pig in the dog, I suppose, to hold that line in the sand and say we are going that way.
Yeah.
And then you get them on the lane and it's like pushing against a brick wall.
Yeah, finally get them out the gateway. And then it is like just pushing the brick wall up the laneway. So yeah, you've got to have that bit of grunt.
Absolutely. And we've touched on some of your pups before, or your breeding. Do you guys breed many pups?
Yeah, I reckon we probably have 6 litters a year. Would that be? Yeah, around that 6 litters. It just varies.
It varies with what we're doing.
We breed them when we need them, and then yeah, there's enough people out there wanting them now that we can sort of fill the gaps with a few pups. So we sort of pick what we want, and then the rest go to other places.
So when you're breeding the litter, like what do you guys look for? Are you looking to feel something in your team, or just to experiment?
Yeah, we do want to do more utility trials and 3 sheep trials in the future. So we are trying to breed those really feely type dogs at the moment that will rate their stock pretty well. But they still have to have that engine, and we have got dogs that'll travel well all day. They've got nice long legs and that big engine on them, but they're feely enough with it.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we've just done a joining now, which put a young dog called Jake over Hilton's Holly, and there's a lot of common blood in the two, but yeah, I think they'll come out pretty good, pretty feely types. So hopefully hit the 3 sheep field one day soon.
Mm-hmm. And you obviously put a lot of consideration into your litters, your bloodlines, work traits, all the rest. Are you looking more for like a line breeding or like to like? What do you guys sort of try to head more towards?
When we line bred that Coogee stuff, we had to breed out from there, but we bred like for like. I think it's pretty important to breed to similar dogs. Definitely breed a type, that's for sure. Same when you're breeding sheep or cattle, you want to breed a type, don't you? Whether you want bulky bodies or meat or whatever, you've got to breed type for type. Otherwise, you're gonna breed a bunch of licorice all sorts, really, aren't you?
Absolutely. And you mentioned before, like you're going to have to go out sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a couple of different prefixes there. Like, what attribute does that sire have to bring to your table for your bitches?
So yeah, I want a dog that's got a lot of stamina. I do like those dogs that will go all day. Slightly lighter in the bone. I don't like these real heavy set dogs. I find they knock up by lunchtime sort of thing. So I like a lighter bone dog that's got plenty of stamina and will go all day, really. That's pretty important to me. It's got to have feel, good cover. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, really.
What about what makes a bitch good enough to breed from then?
It's got to have done the hard yards, day in, day out sort of stuff. It's got to sort of prove itself day in, day out before we even sort of look at breeding from her, really. Yeah, she's got to have been able to do the hard yards, and she doesn't have to perform on the trial ground, but as long as she's done the hard yards day in, day out, we're pretty happy to sort of breed from them.
Yeah.
It's got to show a lot of heart, really. Like I said, the sheep down here are pretty tough on dogs, and they've got to show a pretty big heart to go day in, day out and want to keep going back for it. So, yeah, that's pretty important to us.
And how are you guys picking your own pup?
I let the kids go. The kids, to be honest, Indy, our 8-year-old, she's picked all my good dogs, to be honest. So I just let her go. And sometimes we've got to change the names from Fairy and Princess and things like that. Yeah, she picks all my dogs. Yeah. Yeah, I used to be pretty scientific at it, and they've got, especially with the collies, they had to have a black roof to their mouth, and they couldn't have white pads on their feet and this and that. But I just let the kids go now, and they pick them.
How about you, Ali?
Yeah, pretty similar. I've got a pup here. I had the last litter that of my sort of dogs. She had 10 pups, and she bit the tail off one. It was, I don't know, a day old or something, but it's still kicking around because Polly loves it. I don't know whether he was the best pup in the litter. I kept quite a few, but Polly loved him, so I think it was because of his no tail, but he's the one that's staying. Yeah, pretty similar, just whatever the kids get attached to one of them out of a litter, that one stays.
I think we're pretty lucky in that respect that the kids sort of handle these pups from day dot, and they bring out things in pups that I don't think you'd see if you were just rearing pups. You know what I mean? Like the kids have got them out every day and they're handling them, and they sort of play with them, and you sort of see different things in the pups. I think just with that.
What sort of things are you talking about?
Just like you see them stalking the kids and playing with the kids, or they'll be out there with the cat and the pups are stalking the cat, or things like that, showing a bit of eye, or on his chooks, but or they'll kick around the kids, and they're sort of learning for the future, aren't they? Really, the pups, they're playing with the kids as if they're stalking their own prey a little bit. So you see those little things, which I think is quite cool.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to someone looking to buy their first pup or dog?
Go and look at a few different breeders and types of dogs to start with, and actually nut out what you like and what you want in a dog, because it's pretty easy to go to a breeder these days and get a pup, but it might not be what you're actually looking for, and actually find someone that's breeding the type of dog that actually suits your personality and what you are, because it's nothing more frustrating if you get your first dog and you clash. Is like, you don't want to get rid of it because it's your first dog, but you sort of button heads all the time. So I think it's pretty important to do your homework and find something that suits.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier about you've mentioned like that 6 month mark a couple of times. Do you start your pups before that, or what's your kind of program there?
I just let them go. I just take them to the training sheep and let them go. And if they want to show me something, they show me something. If they don't, we just put them away for a little bit longer and let them be pups. And if they do show you something, then you might take it back 2 or 3 weeks later and let them show you something else. And you just sort of progressively build that sort of period, I suppose, until you feel that pup. I find that they let you know when they're ready to start training. I don't mind letting the pup go in the training yard. And it crosses me and it chases one, and it's just being a pup at the end of the day. So just let it be for a while, and then it will show you when it's ready to be trained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And have you got an ideal training scenario set up, or a wish list for one, or you've already got it?
So yeah, just a small yard to start with as their babies, so they can sort of get around their stock and hold them to you and build that confidence. But as soon as I can, I do like to go out to the paddock, just because they can express themselves a bit more out there. They can break off their stock if they want to, and they can kick out a little bit wider if they want to. Some pups do feel a little bit hemmed in when you're just in that training yard, I feel, and they probably can't express themselves as they want, and they probably do get frustrated then, and they come in for a nip and a bite, whatever. But I find if you take them out to that bigger paddock, then they sort of settle a bit better and they can express themselves a bit better. But you've got to have the right sheep for that too. You've got to have nice and quiet stock, so just so they can get those wins all the time.
Absolutely. Do you ever come past a pup? So you get a few different ones come through here, and when you take them into the paddock, everything just gets a bit overwhelming. So sometimes you have to go back to the training pen.
Yep, for sure. Yep, that definitely do. But then, you just go back to the training pen and give them a week or two in there and sort of really try and build their confidence, and then try outside again. Yeah, it's just all about taking baby steps, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you sound way too patient for me. But
He's so patient. Yeah. He is so patient.
Have you got any milestones you like to see at particular ages, or is there an age where you go, this dog's going to be doing this, and this?
They're all different to me. I do like a pup switching on by 6 or 8 months, but they're all different, aren't they? They all progress differently, like kids, I suppose. Some don't learn to read and some do, but they're all different. But if you like them, I think you're willing to be patient. Well, especially in my books, anyway. So, and I think if you wait for that right spot and wait for them to show you that they're ready to train, you can sort of train them pretty quick. Once they are ready and mentally ready in the head to take the train, and you can train them pretty quick.
So, you mentioned David Rees from the UK, where you, he had a lot of influence on you in the beginning. What would be the basis of that training that you still use today?
Sort of, you use your body and you sort of train them without them knowing they're being trained, sort of thing. So you can sort of, widen them off their stock by just walking into them with your back turned to them. So there's no actual frontal pressure. You're just walking into them and they'll kick around you a bit more, and just things like that by just using your body and just little things. It is just, instead of, chasing a dog off to get distance and things like that, it's just where you position yourself, where you can sort of manipulate your dog a little bit to get those outcomes.
And someone that likes a feely dog, I'm presuming you like your dog to have its head on its stock. So by using that particular method, your dog's going to keep its eye on its stock rather than pushing it off with a bit of front pressure and just trying to race around the other side, right?
Yep. And I like teaching everything on the stock, so I won't teach a stop or anything off stock as young dogs, because I find that sort of takes, you know, their attention away from the stock a little bit. Like you're out there with your sheep and you say sit, and it looks at you because that's what it's learnt, you know, without stock. And then when you're teaching a stop on stock, you can sort of keep its attention on the stock a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Question here from Tammy Conroy. She's asked, how do you train a dog to drive? What methods or exercises do you find invaluable when training it?
I just use a fence line and just walk along with my dog to start with. Just walk your sheep up the fence line, back down the fence line, and I'm always in contact with that dog. That dog can always see me out of the corner of its eye. And sort of over time, I just gradually take a few steps backwards, and that dog will be driving sort of 2-3 foot in front of me. And then over time, I can take a few more steps backwards and just build that dog's confidence, because it will soon start telling you when it's not ready for you to take that step back, because it will start looking back for you. So, I just walk up and down fence lines. I just seem to do a lot of walking, to be honest.
Look back at you, look at the sheep, look back at you and go, I've got to kick you out here. Take it easy, sunshine.
I think you've got to have a good stop to stop them getting to the lead to start with, like, because they do want to just bring them back to you. So as long as you've got that stop on, you can just walk up and down fence lines and stop them and move them and stop them and move them. And yeah, that's sort of how I do it, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never done this on purpose, but I have done it as part of a fluke. But how do you go about training your shed without having a dog that wants to bomb?
Yeah, you just got to have real super quiet sheep that are willing to split. Not all sheep want to do it, but I used to find that back in the UK, like when we were taking the rams out of mobs, was a good time to teach it, because the rams were buggered after all their fun they've had for a few weeks. So they'd hang to the back of the mob, and the ewes would want to run in front. So then they'd naturally shed themselves, and then you just bring the dog between.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you've just got to have the right sort of sheep to teach it, to be honest. Yeah, good recall. I just call them in, so that'll do, and call them in, and the dog really has to trust you, I suppose.
So would you teach that again on a fence and then come in at the side, or would you stay on the other side of
I
mob?
stand on the other side. I actually make the gap myself, make a big enough gap to start with. So you'd want a good 8-foot gap to start with, 10-foot gap. Make it yourself and then call the dog in. So the dog's confident of coming in through the middle, and then do that for quite a while of getting that dog to actually feel comfortable of coming in between the sheep. So the key to the shed is actually the shepherd has to help the dog make the gap. I suppose the dog's not actually making the gap himself. So as long as your dog's comfortable of coming in to the gap, then yeah, that's the key.
And are you just recalling that dog, or are you like starting by recalling and then putting a different cue on it?
No, I just use a recall. I just say that'll do, and the dog will come in. Yeah. Like it's so good to have that on a dog, especially lambing time and things like that on the farm, like where, you know, you've got a lambing issue and you've got 4 or 5 sheep there, and you've got to pull the one out that's got the issue. It's so good to have a dog that'll come in and shed for you.
That was going to be my question. Is it something that you still teach all your dogs?
Yep. Just for that reason, more so
time.
at lambing time. Just to catch those ewes that are having issues and things like that.
Yeah.
Or even fly blown ewes. It's good to just cut them out and treat them in the paddock, isn't it? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how much time are you putting into training younger dogs?
Pretty dedicated to it, aren't we? We do put a lot of. We don't trial a lot anymore, but we really put a lot of time into our dogs. Probably every evening if we can. As long as kids allow, we're out there playing with dogs. So
Dogs and horses at the minute.
yeah,
I enjoy sitting on a bucket or a seat and having a drink while Rich trains. It's nice, isn't it? It's relaxing at the end of the day.
yeah. I was lucky enough, like in the UK, there where I'm from, everyone lives with stock and dogs, and that's all you talk about is sheep and cows and dogs. And I found when I was younger, we'd go to the pub, but we'd all end up talking about dogs and sheep and stuff like that. But people are they're in love with it over there, and New Zealand's the same. I found everyone wants to be a shepherd, and everyone wants a team of dogs and wants to chase stock. Yeah, so yeah, it's what we live for.
And you cast, like, obviously you love a big cast. How are you encouraging the shape? You're doing it exactly the same way you mentioned, with following that dog out and bending it with your back to it.
So I just start with small casts, like 10 meters, and then sit your dog, walk straight to your sheep, and then come out to one side and kick your dog around you, and then you can just go from there and just keep increasing that distance. Yeah.
And do you find that the Kelpies wanted to take you on a bit more than the collies you were training previously on that?
I found the collies have sort of become quite robotic in a way where you have to teach absolutely everything. Whereas the Kelpie probably is a bit more natural, so I find it's probably a little bit easier to teach a cast on a Kelpie than it is a collie these days. Especially some of those real trial lines now in the UK, that they are quite robotic, and you pretty much have to teach it most things.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's what I was going to ask. Like, I don't think sometimes we understand over here just how big the ISDS is over there. Like, that's like a cult, right?
It's massive. Yeah, it's absolutely massive. Like, you think weekend trialing over here is massive. Like in the springtime over there, you could probably go to 5 or 6 trials within a 100-mile radius of home, and just go from one trial to the next.
Crazy.
It is huge. Yeah. And the national, there could be 150 dogs running at the national that have all pre-qualified for that. It's huge.
And I think earlier you mentioned like that your family moved to like rural, like when you were about 10 years old.
Yep.
Like prior to that experience, like was sheepdog trialing, like was it obviously it was known, but was it that big a thing, or it was only once you moved rural?
Well, it was on TV every Sunday, one man and his dog, like you'd sit down after tea and watch one man and his dog, and everyone in the town would, it was just a cult following. Everyone would watch one man and his dog. And there was a massive uproar when that finished. But everybody knew about sheepdog trialing because it was on TV every Sunday. So, yeah, a lot of people got hooked to it that way.
Geez, we're missing out here.
Yep.
Cool. Mate, we've mentioned trialing a little bit tonight, and you mentioned that you guys aren't trialing as much. So you're still doing a little bit?
Yeah, we're still doing a little bit. So we went up to Nyngan. That's where we met you, Dan, and we done Melrose before that. We do a few 3 sheep trials, and we do a handful of yard trials every year, but that's about it. We would like to do more, but we'll do that once the kids have left home and grown up. We'll have our crack then, I suppose. But we just do a few every year, don't we? And
it's like when the kids were when we only had Miley and Indy, when they were before school, we did a lot of yard trials then, and then we got into the 3 sheep trialing, and it's just hard with kids and work. We were at a really big job before, like, I don't know, we left there over a year ago now anyway, but we were there for 6 years, and that was that took all our time, so we didn't do many then, but yeah.
We run a few dog trials. We're part of the Southwest Sheepdog Club, and we run a few 3 sheep trials and Trans-Tasman trials throughout the year with them, but we only do a handful of trials every year now, really. Just like to mix it up and try and do a bit of everything, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is it about trialing that keeps you on the hook, even though that I still kind of take it off a bit?
Quite like the competition with it, and you've got to have that much of a handle on your dog. It's rewarding, isn't it, to put the time in and actually, you might not be winning, but you can see that training coming out in your dogs at a trial. That's quite rewarding. It's to see that time and effort that's going in is being paid off. Yeah,
absolutely. Do you have a favourite trial to participate in?
Yeah, there's a couple. We got to Melrose finally this year.
We've always wanted to go to Melrose. We've been saying for years.
That's probably the most picturesque trial
Beautiful.
we've ever been to.
Loved it.
Ningan's good. Ningan's always a good crack, isn't it? It's good up there. Port Fairy Commonwealth Championship is a good trial. It's close to us, but it's pretty much on the beach, and you've got the likes of Pip Hudson giving the commentary up in the grandstands.
That's fun.
All that sort of stuff. That's a great week.
Probably. Yeah, Melrose and Ningan. We've only been to Ningan twice, like this year and last year, but and Port Fairies. Yeah, probably Port Fairy and them two.
Yeah.
Ali, do you have a memorable trialing moment?
Oh, I haven't really thought about this one. Geez, a memorable one. Which would that be? This year at Port Fairy, I won the farmers trial there, and I ended up having a runoff with myself. The same. I had 4 dogs in it, and I got equal first with Holly and Gidgee, and I had to have a runoff. That was with myself. That was pretty funny.
Were you biased?
Yeah, hey.
Were you biased towards one dog?
The one she wanted to win didn't win.
Yeah,
so.
no. Holly's the better dog. Holly's the better dog. Holly's the better dog. She definitely deserves to win. What about you?
I think I won the improver at Koroit, the Australian champs there at Koroit 2 years ago. I think it was. I know it's only an improver win, but I think I'd only done 5 3-sheep trials prior to that, and 3 of those were encourages. And turned up there. I think I was the only Kelpie in the Open Improver, and made the final. And thought, that's a great achievement. Made the final, real happy with that. And then won it. And there was some pretty top people I rate pretty highly in 3-sheep trialing in that Improver final that day. And my little Kelpie bitch went round and won it. So I was like I said, it was only an Improver win, but I was pretty over the moon with that. So, and we bred the little bitch, so it was pretty cool actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you do any trials in the UK?
I only ever did one, and that was a local trial. And I took a young dog I had at the time called Rock there, and I thought he was going to win everything, but we ended up in the car park. To be honest, he brought him down too fast on the fetch on the cast floor, and as they do in the UK, it's all in one paddock, and the cars are all parked there with no fence, and we ended up in the car park. So that was the one and only time I trialled at home. It was an absolute disaster. So never went back. Yeah.
At least you can laugh about it now.
Yeah. It was only a local trial. There's no one of any note there, so it didn't really matter. But it was a big joke of the district there for a while. Yeah.
Any nerves, guys?
Do we get nervous?
Yeah.
I don't get nervous trialing at all, but I get really nervous watching Rich. Anyone that knows me would know, sees me at a trial would know that. I get really nervous watching him, but not for myself.
Yeah, I used to get really nervous and probably go through all the things that could go wrong before I ran my dog, and then it all come true. So I've learned to control my nerves, and I reckon the last probably 2 years I've just walk out there as if it's at home and do what I know the dogs can actually do. So learn to control the nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned something about outside dogs. So are you training outside dogs as well?
Yep. We just thought we'd put an ad on Facebook probably back in May. I know we had a bit of time on our hands, and we just saw, we've had a few people ringing us about it and sort of never really sort of fancied doing it. And Yeah, put an ad out to say we might do a few, and it's just gone crazy, to be honest.
We'd always had, when we were at Holt, we'd always have the big place we managed. We'd always have people ask, but we just never had time. So now our life's changed.
I think since May we've done about 15 dogs, and just couldn't believe how many people actually want dogs trained.
Beautiful. And what other services are you guys offering?
So basically livestock services, so anywhere from mustering to yard work to low-key consultancy, on your grass growing and grazing management and all that sort of stuff. So any sort of dog work we're happy to do, really.
And anyone that may need anything, how would they get in contact with you guys?
On Facebook, or our phone numbers on our Celtic Kelpies page. Just give us a call or a message, and we're happy to help.
Beautiful.
Fantastic. Now, I already know the answer to this question, but your enthusiasm for livestock and working dogs passed down to the kids. How's that going? And how competitive are they?
They're competitive. They fight. They're. We've never pushed it, but it's just sort of gone through to them, and they absolutely love it. They've all got their older dogs. I've sort of given them my older dogs now, and they've all got a few younger dogs, and they are out there every night playing with dogs. Ernie's the same. Wherever we go, he's in the let out. He's got to be out there helping and playing sheep. I think he come up and helped you down there at Ningen, and he has got sheep shit on the brain massively. Like it is scary. We share a few sheep of our own, and Ernie's already picked up a handpiece and crutched a few and shorn the last side of one or two, and the girls have all done the same, and they catch sheep at landmark, and they're just mad for it, really. It's pretty cool, actually, to see it's filtering through.
Oh, well and truly.
I can't wait to see how they control it when they get a bit more leg on them.
Yeah, like Miley went up to Ningen, and she ran in the junior there, and she didn't get the put away to win it, and that's all she could talk about on the way home was the fact she come second because she missed the put away. So, be happy that you come second. And
it won't be long. They're giving us a run for our money, I reckon.
Yeah, they'll probably end up taking all our dogs, to be honest, and we'll have nothing to try. Yeah.
Is there anyone you'd like to see us sit down and have a chat with on Dog Talk?
I really, he's not on Facebook or anything, and but I reckon I don't know whether he's been on or been suggested, but if Pip Hudson could get on here, I have learned so much off him. He comes down here for 3 sheep trials. And if I get any chance, I love sitting beside him and having a good yarn. I have learnt so much, and he gets down in the dirt and draws me all these maps and stuff. I've learnt so much. I love sitting and talking to him. He would be really good. Yeah, that would be really cool if you could manage to get him on it.
And not only is he a wealth of knowledge, but he's so entertaining.
Oh, he's great.
He's the best, I reckon.
He's so good. Yeah. He is so good.
Our trial this year, he done the novelty event. He started commentating it.
He was singing to me at the Supreme.
He does it at the Port Fairy for the Trans-Tasman. They run that at night under lights, and he stands up in the grandstand there, commentates till midnight. Just loves it.
Yeah. But I've learnt so much of him by just sitting beside him and talking, and
David Reese would be one I'd like to see you guys chat to. I think he'd be pretty cool for you to talk to, and even the likes of Kevin Evans and all those top trial boys in the UK. I think they'd be a real insight for us over here for you guys to talk to.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. I'll hit you up off the camera to try and make that happen. And in regards to Pip, if there's anyone living out that way that has a bit more access to technology than he does and can help us out, we'd love to sit down and have a chat with Pip.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be well worth doing.
That would be, definitely.
Was there a question that stood out for you guys tonight, and they will win a bag of enduro behind your food for working dogs with Real Kangaroo Meat?
Probably Daniel Lenzo. He's obviously done his homework to realise I know David Rees. So, yeah, probably that one.
Beautiful.
All you
Yeah.
even said.
Yeah.
Well, then, if you want to get in contact with us, unless your details have changed, mate, there's a bag enduro coming your way. Thanks for the question. And to the other questions we got tonight, and also for being our guest, guys, there's a bag coming your way as well.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Cheers.
One last question, as always, though. Would you rather fight one duck the size of a horse or 20 horses the size of ducks?
I reckon the one duck the size of a horse wouldn't have much of a reach, would he, with his little wings? So I reckon I could probably take him. I reckon 20 little horses would probably still kick pretty hard. So yeah, I'd go the big duck.
I'd go the 20 little horses.
Love the fight.
Yeah.
Those dogs are a bit more sting. Should be lining all the dogs up. But they got the poultry master in Ernie there anyways. He could tame that duck.
He'd tame the duck, wouldn't he? So yeah. So no,
Guys, thank you very much for your time tonight. We really appreciate it, especially knowing it is a school night and you have got the kids tucked away. So thanks heaps for giving us your time tonight.
No worries.
all good. No, thank you for asking us.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
No, thank you for jumping on.
And to everyone that logged on tonight and listening back, thank you very much for listening to us. We hope we entertain you. And please remember, we learn every day. The day we stop learning will be a sad one for all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Cheers.